So, Deemo was one of my earliest rhythm games I've ever played. Released in 2013, it's one of my first ever rhythm games and honestly one of my favorites to this day. In Deemo, you simulate playing a piano. Notes fall down from the top of the screen and you tap them when they hit the scan line at the bottom. The reason why I think Deemo was one of my favorite rhythm games was probably because Deemo was my first experience with a key-sounded rhythm game. Just to quickly explain what key-sounded means in Deemo's case, whenever you hit a note, the notes play part of the song itself. In other words, you're actually playing the song, and it really hammers home the fact that you're playing a piano, since instead of the notes just playing hit sounds, you're playing actual piano notes. For reference, in Citus, a previous game made by the same developers Rayark, hitting notes just plays a generic burst sound to go with the music. You can probably see why Deemo was my favorite game growing up. It's seriously immersive and the charts are brilliant as well. That's why I was honestly pretty excited to see Deemo getting a PC and VR remake called Deemo Reborn, which came out in September 2020. But I only got to playing it recently. Deemo Reborn is, at its core, still a rhythm game, but it has a few new extra elements of exploration and puzzle solving thrown into the mix. It's great fun and honestly has a pretty deep lore behind it, but Deemo Reborn is weird. So as a rhythm gamer at heart, let's talk about the rhythm game part of Deemo Reborn first. In my personal opinion, playing Deemo Reborn in VR is the optimal way of playing Deemo. I honestly don't have the highest opinion of most VR rhythm games, since they can be kinda tacky. Konami beat Arena. But Deemo Reborn executes VR piano playing pretty well. I hit the notes I actually want to hit, and slide notes are pretty satisfying. I would say definitely give it a try if you have a headset. Oh yeah, I feel the need to say this now. I'm editing the video, I'm looking over the VR footage I have. Guys, what the fuck are these hands? I know Deemo's the one playing the piano, but seriously, these hands are fucking, like, terrifying. Like, yeah, just look at the fucking footage. You know what, this actually reminds me of the Phasmophobia death screen. Moving on to playing Deemo Reborn with a keyboard. Unlike the original Deemo, it's a 6-lane rhythm game. Each lane is binded to, by default, SDF and JKL, although they can be rebinded. And when the notes hit the scan line, you hit the corresponding key for whichever lane they're in. Pretty straightforward, but here's a weird issue that comes from porting Deemo over into the PC. So, slide notes were and still are a core mechanic in Deemo. The yellow notes, which are called slide notes, are held down and followed instead of tapped. The confusion for me arises on Deemo Reborn, specifically on the keyboard. You see, slides aren't exactly practical to do on the keyboard, for obvious reasons, and they are possible to play, just that they're really weird to do. So instead of playing slides as slides, the devs have decided that you can use your spacebar to hit every yellow note. Does that sound weird? Because it really is. In Deemo Reborn, nothing is really stopping you from holding down spacebar from the start of the song to the end, and ignoring every slide note entirely since, well, they're all hit by the spacebar. So, let's say you don't want to cheat with the spacebar. Let me ask you a question. If you were playing slide notes without the spacebar and you were using your SDF-JKL binds, what button do you press for this note? Well, do you press F or J? Well, you actually can't hit it. Hitting both F and J won't work, and using the spacebar is somehow mandatory. Honestly, in my personal opinion, I don't think this is as big of an issue as I'm making out to be. And I think Rayark tried to port slides as best as they could into PC. It's still great fun, and it's a really interesting experience playing songs from the original Deemo in keyboard form. Now, let's talk about the other parts of the game. First off, I want to address something. Deemo Reborn is pretty goddamn beautiful. I don't really know if there's any other way to put it. Seeing maps from the original Deemo, like the library room, ported to 3D, can only really be described in my head as breathtaking. Of course, Deemo Reborn isn't just a one-to-one port from the original Deemo to PC. Like I've said earlier, Reborn has additional puzzles and some additional rooms to the game. It should be noted that the original Deemo didn't have puzzles at all. The puzzles themselves, while they can be a little bit confusing at times, were pretty fun too. For example, you have to reorganize bookmarks you collect around the room to get a painting on the wall to grow a tree inside of the painting. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about something completely different. Deemo Reborn scares the shit out of me, and I don't know why. First off, I'm going to be honest. I
am a pussy.
A huge pussy, but I'm going to hope that I'm not alone in thinking that Deemo, the character, looks kinda horrifying in 3D. If you don't, and think he looks adorable, that's fine. I kinda agree. He can be cute. But let me put an image in your head. Let's say you wake up at 3 AM and you see Deemo standing at the foot of your bed. Yeah, still cute. Also, he really needs some fucking nail clippers. When you get far enough into the game, you start to unlock more rooms. You unlock more songs by picking up sheet music scattered around the rooms. One of the rooms you encounter pretty early on is the loft room, which is called the attic in the original game. It's an ominous room with a few puzzles, eerie statues, and a creepy painting. The background music of looping screeching violins doesn't really help either. In the corner, you'll find a room too dark for you to head in until you find a lantern. But just by standing outside of the room, you'll be able to hear screeching of some sort. As someone who's too big of a fucking pussy to get water at 3 AM without light, that was pretty horrifying. I honestly don't know if Rayak were planning to make exploration unsettling, but if they did, they've accomplished it pretty well. I'm not going to get into anything lore-wise for this video since I don't think I'm familiar enough with the lore, but I think to conclude this fairly short video, Rayak have done a fucking good job remaking the original Deemo in 3D. The cutscenes and voice acting are pretty spot on, the written game part of Deemo is still goddamn fun, and they've amped up the creepy factor to 11. I'm definitely planning to play it in complete Deemo, and my opinions may change as I progress. Make sure to check out my Twitch channel as I probably will stream Deemo Reborn on there. With all that said, thank you guys for watching.